Hello, 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 and this is the day the Lord has made, and we're here to rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to Hope TV. We're excited you've tuned in today, and it's been such a blessing and an honor that you've tuned in. We started this platform back, 14 months ago, so just as a way of kind of ministering to our congregation. And we never imagined. Can you imagine?
No.
A year later, we now have over 30 shows that we offer on a weekly basis, and we've had over 100 million views of our content via the cumulative platforms. And so, Andre and the boys, they thought I was crazy initially because I was in front of the computer all day, every day when we first got started. And I think we're all shocked at just how good God has been and the program. So whether you're married, single, male, whether you're a woman, have shows for you, whether you're a child, a youth, a senior, adult, we have exercise shows, cooking shows, mental health, finances, comedy, you name it, you can find it here on the Hope TV. So we're excited, and thank you for your support because y'all have shown Andrea and the boys that I was not crazy. Well, that's another subject for another day. But everybody who's tuned in, whether you tune in through Apple TV, Roku, Twitch, Amazon, Fire TV, if you're watching my YouTube, Facebook, if you're watching through Twitter or Instagram Live, whether it's the edoismith.org website, the House of Hope Atlanta website, House of Hope West Point, our newest church plant. Shout out to House of Hope West Point, whether it's that website or whether it's thehopetv.com. Thank you for tuning in. You've really, really blessed us with your presence. Over 100 million views the first year throughout all platforms, and we're shooting for 200 this year. So if you're watching through a platform that will allow you to subscribe, to like, to comment, or to share, please do so. Every time you subscribe, you can get notifications as to when new content is uploaded, so help us in that regard. Your likes are so important. They help us with our algorithms and our social media engagement. So hit that like button, Of course, your comments are incredibly helpful. Send those questions or comments. Let us know how you feel about this program today. And then the share button is preeminently important because you help us to reach exponential growth opportunities. So subscribe, like, comment, or share. So everybody who's watching, whether you're married couples, whether you are single, that's what's been crazy. Initially we thought it was just gonna be for married couples, but now everybody watching.
Right,
Yeah,
single.
I mean, you just name it. My 86-year-old mother-in-law watches this. I don't know what she's watching this for, but she's watching it. So shout out to my mother-in-law, 86, who's still watching this. But love you, mother. So a lot of people have been watching it, and we're blessed by it. This is a very important show. This is season that this is season we've had some powerful couples on here, and today we have an amazing couple who we have a lot of respect for, and our producers and Andre, they've been trying to get them on, trying to get it worked out, and God so fixed it so it could work out. A couple that we admire, we appreciate. So we're excited. They are residents of Las Vegas, Nevada, and they both pastor at the Destiny Christian Center there in Las Vegas. So we're going to welcome to Marriage Matters doctors Robert and Sheila Poole. Welcome, Poole family.
Hey.
How y'all doing?
Bless you.
Praise the Lord. God bless you. We are well.
We are. Well,
good.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hey, it's a privilege and a blessing that you're here with us, and we thank God for you, and we thank the world of you. Back in November of 2019, right before the pandemic, you both came to our Maximize Your Ministry conference. We tried to throw a family conference in along with that.
Right.
And you poured in some of our couples, and we've been trying to get that arranged for years. And we wanted to have you back last year to do the same, but of course the pandemic kind of altered our plans. But now you're here with us today on Marriage Matters, so welcome. We're excited to have you here with us. We always open this show with
the truth.
Okay, well, I defer. Go ahead on. You go ahead and begin. Our customary question.
Dr. Sheila, tell us how you guys met, where you're from, how you met, and, how you came to be Mr. and Mrs. Poole, and tell us, the real version. We'll hear the other side later, but
just a minute.
We just want to hear.
No, we know
we know how he ran you down and stuff, but just tell it to everybody.
We know the truth is coming once she finishes. So we'll let you go ahead and get your little part out. We know the real story's coming later.
Okay. Well, we have known each other since we were 15 years old. We met in driver's ed at Western High School in 1982. In 1982, and I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised there. And my father got this idea that he wanted to move to Las Vegas. I was very, very upset. I was 13 years old and didn't want to move and had no idea that my destiny was in Las Vegas and involved, because at that time I wasn't serving the Lord. Nevertheless, we met at 15. We were best friends. He called me Shorty and I called him Stretch. He's 6'2" and I'm 5 feet.
5 0.
5 feet, just 5 feet. And he was always the brother that I never had. He was my best friend. He thought all my boyfriends were jerks, and they were. And I fixed him up with my girlfriend, my best friend in my senior year in high school. I hooked them up, so they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. Because he was just my brother. And it wasn't until 5 years after we graduated, right? 85, no, he's the math guy. But in 91, I got born again in 1987. But in 91, him and Aiden,
I'm listening. She says it. You tell your side.
Anyway, and we reconnected. We reconnected at the Sahara Hotel at a Benny Hinn convention.
Right.
I was supposed to be working in children's church. They didn't need me. I come out, lo and behold, there was Stretch there at this conference. I had no idea he was going to be there. He said, Shorty. I said, Stretch, what are you doing here? You're a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. We have both been serving the Lord for a little bit of time. Then that was in May of 1991. In February of 1992, I was scheduled to I was planning to move back to Phoenix. At that time, I didn't know. It was probably February 3rd, 1992. We started talking on the phone, and I just thought he was an incredible man of God. I just thought he was the baddest preacher. I thought, because it was amazing to me, his love for the Lord, his knowledge of the Word. And for 33 days, we talked on the phone every day. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. And it probably wasn't until maybe 2 weeks, the middle of February, and he called me to ask me to go to a bookstore with him. And I went to this Christian bookstore. He needed a Bible. We got the Bible. He brought me back home, and I started crying because all of a sudden, I don't know, I was just overwhelmed with emotion. And I got out of the car. I said, don't start liking me. It'll mess up everything. And so,
tell the story back.
And
Go
so
ahead.
I got out of the car, and I didn't even know what that was all about. I was just very emotional at that moment. And again, I was planning to move back to Phoenix, where I first started serving the Lord. And he invited me to his Bible study. Now, I didn't want to go to his Bible study, but I went. And I sat in the seat where his girlfriend normally sat.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And I didn't know that I was in his girlfriend's seat, but I like to be up front.
The seats weren't reserved.
They weren't.
That was on her. She should have got there on time.
It was again, I don't even remember what he preached, but again, he has always been an incredible preacher to me. Now, at this point, again, I'm wanting to be married, but I didn't think that anything about him. And after that Bible study, we're all in a circle. His girlfriend is standing next to him at this time. And we had our heads bowed. I'll never forget it. And I looked up, and it's almost as if I heard a voice in my ear. If you could hear an audible voice, I heard, you will be back here to minister as his wife. Ooh. And I froze.
Wow.
I said, oh my gosh. In my head, all these sirens and violins and tulips and buttercups are going off on the inside of me. And I had wanted to be married. I had the want to be married blues. I thought I was getting married 6 different times. This was number 7. I didn't want to mess it up. So I said, well, I'm going to go to his apartment to make sure, because I've missed it before. We all go to his apartment. Me, him, his best friend, and this girlfriend who didn't say anything. Me and Robert talked for like an hour.
Those two
just sitting there silent.
Yeah.
And wow. I'm like, this is it. Oh my gosh, this is it. Well, it wasn't until probably another week later. I didn't say anything to him. I did move to Phoenix. And the first night I was there, he preached his first message here in Las Vegas and said, well, I want to share this with somebody. The only person I could think of to share with was my wife, and I'm not married, but you're the next best thing.
Yeah.
We were on the phone for 9 hours.
9. Talking
about who knows what, but probably about the 8th hour, I guess. He said, I know now. More like the
probably the 6th hour.
The 6th hour. He said, I know now. I said, what? He said, I know now that you're my wife, and I'm not going to ask for what the Father has given me. We got engaged March 8th, 1992. We got married.
No, I'm running it down.
Got married July 7th, 1992, because long engagements aren't healthy.
No.
I didn't want that would just a recipe for fire and desire.
Yeah.
And so 3 months later, we were married, and we've been married now for 28 years. It'll be 29 years. This July, and he is still my big hunk of burning love. That's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
She was pretty accurate. Pretty accurate.
What you're looking for, you can find it here on the whole TV. What you're looking for, what you're looking for, you can find it here on the whole TV. What you're looking for, welcome to the whole TV.
These movements like COVID, BLM, how do you think it's affected the black dollar?
It's affected the black dollar, especially with COVID-19, where so many people have lost their jobs. And I don't think people knew to the extent of the loss it was going to be. It's a bit devastating, but I don't say it's the end of the world. I definitely try to help people get on the right track so when the next COVID comes, you're together.
Dr. Robert, what are your recollections? Is she accurate? Anything you want to add to that?
She's pretty accurate. The one thing I thought that was interesting was because when we reconnected at that Benny Hinn meeting, you know, I saw her. What she didn't say, I was there with my girlfriend. You know, I grew up. Here I am. You know, this is how we do it. You're the young single guy. And, you know, the church, they just hook you up. You know, go meet that girl right there. Y'all go to the movie. And so that's how they did us. And so I'm with this girl, but I knew, I'm like, man, I believe God's calling me to preach. I like to be in front of people. I like to talk. And she was an introvert. So I'm thinking, God, you got to change this woman. She can't be my wife. And then I realized, well, God, you don't have to change her. Maybe she's just not my wife. No problem. We go to this Benny Hinn meeting. Here's Shorty. I'm like, Shorty, you know. And so we exchanged numbers, talked a couple of times. She called me. I knew she would leave this part out too. She called me because chump number 6. She called him guys. I called him. She called me because she was having guy troubles with chump number 6. And telling me all this because she's talking to her brother about this guy
who I was gonna marry.
And I'm like, don't marry that dude. Who is he? You know, this guy, he ain't the one. I didn't think I was, but I knew he wasn't. And so we talked, and that's when the conversation started every single day for about, and she remembers the 33 days. But the long and short of it, she was moving to Phoenix, going back to Phoenix. I used to deal dice. I was a dice dealer here. And so I get off work. I work the swing shift in Vegas. You know, we're 24-hour town. So I would get off some mornings, Sunday mornings, like at 5 a.m. Go home, take a quick shower, go to church. You know, we got to be in church. So that morning, I said, I know Shorty's leaving. Let me run by her apartment to tell her goodbye, then go to church. I do all of that, send her off. I walk in the church that morning, and the pastor, it's during the offering time. So, you know, traditional Baptist congregation service. So the offering, the choir singing, the people are coming around. I come in a side door, kind of like you have at the House of Hope, how you can come in the side entrance. And I come in, the pastor walks over to me and he says, the Spirit says you have the word tonight. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Because I've been teaching the young adults. I've never taught the whole congregation, nothing like that. So I do that. I go back to my apartment and I can't explain it. And I'm like, God, this is weird. So I call her, and while we're talking, I heard the Lord say, she's your wife. And that's what I told her. I said, I know now. And she's like, what do you know? What do you know? Because what she believed the Lord told her was a week prior. But I was a deep preacher. So had she told me God told her something, I would have shut it down, because the scripture says he that find a wife. And I would have argued that. God didn't told you that, because God wouldn't have told the woman, you know. So she kept silent for the whole week. Now she was dropping big hints though.
Adam bomb.
She was like, so how do you feel? I said, what do you mean feel? We're not moved by our feelings. You can't be led by no feelings. I gotta hear God, you know. So we would talk, and once the Lord spoke though, it was like literally fast forward. That was March 8th. Then we talked again March 9th, and I realized that I've known her since 1982, but only as my sister. So I get off the phone, and back then, obviously, this was before 9/11. So I had to teach that Bible study that night. I called my mom. I told my mom, God has showed me who my wife is. I called my girlfriend. And I said, well, God didn't show me who my wife is. And she said, it's Sheila, isn't it? I said, it is. So she's crying, and I'm like, God.
They dated for 2 years.
Yeah, we dated for 2 years, she and I. We really never actually dated, because, I mean, it was just like we went from Saturday, she was my sister, to Sunday, she was, wow, you know. And so I said, man, God, I taught my Bible study that's Monday night. We got back on the phone 6 more hours. While on the phone, I said, you know what? I've never seen you. I don't know what you look like. I mean, who looks at their sister like that? So I said, I don't know what you look like. So I hung up the phone. I called the airport, booked me a flight, a round trip ticket to Phoenix. Drove to the airport, got on the plane, went to see her, and then I was like, wow, this girl is beautiful. I mean, up until that point, she was just my little sister. I never looked at her like that. So it was like a what they call rom-coms, because she was coming on the little moving escalator, and I'm coming down, and we're, you know,
Everything was slow motion.
It was a trip. So then now, of course, this is before cell phones. We're on that phone every day, and I'm like, look, this phone bill, something's got to give. You need to move back to Las Vegas. And so in that short period of time, the Lord told us we were going to have a child, told me that we were going to have a son. His name was going to be Joshua. Showed her a room and this little light-skinned, curly-haired baby. And fast forward, when Joshua was born, by now we're living in St. Louis. Joshua is born.
Light skin, curly hair, same room.
In
window on the
St.
same
Louis,
side. Yeah.
In St. Louis, Missouri. And so it's just been from day one, it's been like, okay, God. And it's one of those things, I'll say this, for me, because she wanted to be married. I was absolutely loving my single life. I wasn't looking for a wife. Marriage for me, I used to say literally, I'm not going to get married until I can afford a divorce, because divorce runs rampant on both sides of my family. And so to me, marriage simply meant you get with somebody for a few years, have a couple of kids, then you pay child support for the rest of your life. I mean, I'm being honest. And so I wasn't looking to be married. I mean, I got my own place. I come and go when I want. I do what I want. I'm loving God, so I'm not sinning. I have a girlfriend. You know, it's not like we out there. I'm not, you know, we're not living a double life. I'm just enjoying my life. And then she interrupts my life, you know, but it's been the best. It was a great interruption. Yeah, it was good. And so that's kind of how our story being so unique, because I never had eyes for her. I mean, as you can see, I'm a dark brother, and
I'm not.
I never liked light-skinned women. I never liked short women.
I'm just about as light as they
And yeah, so I'm like, God, you had to do this. God has a sense of humor, because He gave me this little bitty short. Do they even still say red bone? I don't know. Do people still say it?
Yeah, they do. They do.
They do.
More
See,
like
thank
high
you.
yellow.
High
I've
yellow.
never been called
Okay.
high yellow.
High yellow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you both.
So let me ask you
But
this,
anyway, look.
Miss
Yes,
Sheila.
ma'am.
So you know how we come with a list. You know, he got to be
boy.
tall, he's got to be fine, he's got to have this amount
Yes,
of money.
I
You know,
have
you
a
don't want
list.
him with kids, and you have been engaged several times before. So what about him? Did he meet all of your prerequisites, or was it something that you said, you know what, he doesn't have this, but that's okay, I'm good?
Well, I was engaged once before, but there was 5 other times that I thought it was the one. I was engaged once before him, and anyway, I had a list. I wanted him tall, dark, and handsome. And he fit the bill. I know I'm only 5 feet, and Father forgive me, but I've always had a thing for not wanting to have a thing for short guys. And so I was at Arizona State University at the time, and I just remember saying, Lord, I just want him to be tall, dark, and handsome. I didn't even ask. Look, I didn't even ask for him to love Jesus. That wasn't even on the list. I guess that just went without saying. But I wanted a tall, dark, and handsome man, and he fit the bill completely and totally. So.
A lot of times it's easy to attach your identity to something you do or somewhere you work because you don't like who you are.
In regards to getting to know who you are, one piece that people have to really be ready to is look at themselves honestly. A lot of times we want to sell ourselves an idea of ourselves rather than who we really are.
I work in the #1 cable news network in the #1 market in the nation, and I'm the only full-time African-American woman in my newsroom. Being inspired is really saying that at the end of the day, no matter what's happening in my world or around me, it's bigger than me.
You said something that's very powerful. You know, you guys met in 1982 as
Yes.
brother and sister.
Yes.
And you didn't really see each other again until May of 91. So that's 30 years ago this month.
Correct.
So, but you were friends.
Yes.
How do you think your friendship, the previous friendship you had before you became romantic, do you think that made it easier for you in marriage? How being friends, how has that helped your marriage? Did it help your marriage? Do you think that's important for people who are watching, who are considering marriage? The importance of being friends. Because I think what's happening a lot of times, even when people get married, they lose the friendship sometimes, and people become more roommates.
Or they didn't have a
Or they didn't have a
Right.
friendship. So what are your thoughts? What would you say to the people who are watching, who think about getting married, or the people who are married, and the friendship element of it? What would you say about that? I want to hear that from both of you. What would you say? I'll start with you, Dr. Robert.
I think that is really probably the key component to obviously, with the obvious Christ, the success of the marriage, but the fact that we were friends first. To this degree, we even encourage young people that want to be married, go find a friend. Because if the friendship is established, already friends. And so we see that same thing, as you said, sir. So many couples get married and try to become friends. And by the grace of God, it can happen, but it's a harder route because they don't have anything established prior. Our likes and dislikes were already pretty much established, so she knew how I was. I knew how she was. To some degree, obviously, there's things about marriage that only marriage can reveal, but it made it a whole lot easier because we weren't trying to establish, well, this is the way I like this, and well, I don't like that. We already knew that about each other. So I already knew what, for the most part, what would hurt her feelings. She already kind of knew when you went too far with me. And I think that's so important with marriage today, is we're such in a rush to be married that we'll marry a stranger.
Right, or just get married in Jesus' name only.
And Jesus is not enough.
Obviously.
Jesus is not enough
Should be.
to be, well, let me say it this way. If all you have in common is Christ, you don't have enough to get married. You cannot just say, I'm saved, she's saved. And so that was the thing. We kind of like the same type of movies and that type of thing. So yeah, the friendship, absolutely.
And we when we got married, we moved to St. Louis.
Oh.
And so we didn't have any family. I was 7 months pregnant. We got pregnant. We were both deep and wonderful.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily on purpose.
No.
We didn't know no better, Father. Go ahead.
We thought we wanted to conceive on the wedding night, which again, we were just deep and wonderful and didn't know no better. But I got pregnant 4 months after we were married. We moved to St. Louis.
My job transferred me.
Right. So 7 months pregnant in St. Louis. He had to become my best friend.
We
were
had no
best friends in
family.
high school.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to talk to. I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have any friends. And I remember crying to him one day and telling him, I don't have any friends. He said, I'll be your best friend. And I was like, that's not what I mean. But we became the best of friends in St. Louis all over again on a marital level, raising our children, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. So friendship is paramount in the relationship.
Absolutely.
And I think as believers, we get deep and wonderful, spooky pooky, just want to get married in Jesus' name, and you don't have the same morals and convictions. That's what I'm looking for. Robert and I have always had from day one the same morals and convictions, which really just enhanced our relationship and our
made it a lot easier.
Yes.
Made it a lot easier. Yeah.
So did both of you?
Yes,
did both of you come from Christian families, or?
Child, listen. No. Listen, I went to Bethesda Presbyterian Church, the Church of the Frozen Chosen, and
she was a CME member. Christmas, Mother's Day. She said they went all the time. I don't have proof.
Did.
That was in Pittsburgh before y'all moved to Las Vegas.
We was in Pittsburgh in church at Bethesda Presbyterian Church, and I did not like it. My mother made us go, and I didn't like those people, and I didn't come to know the Lord or have a relationship with the Lord until I was 19 years old. So,
and I grew up in church, but I was in church. I just wasn't saved. So I knew church, and we laugh about it because I never missed a Sunday. Met her in 1982, and she never even knew I attended church, because once I went to school, there was no mention of church, no mention of God. It wasn't cool. So I would go to church on Sundays. You know, we do our church activities, and I mastered keeping those separate from my quote unquote real life. And so, again, this shouldn't be the case, but I'll say this, and it wasn't my church's fault, so in no way am I putting it on them. But for my church experience, it was nothing about my church experience encouraged me to get married and stay married. Nothing. My pastor got divorced. My parents got divorced. I mean, my goodness, the chairman of the deacon board got divorced. The president of the choir got divorced. And that was within an 18-month span. So I was like, man, please, I'm good. I'm good.
Now, my parents are still married. My mom is 79 and my dad is 80. And they have been married 55
this year.
56 years. They've been married 56 years. And again, my mom raised us. And I mean, we didn't grow up in a Christian home. We did go to church, but I didn't grow up in a Christian home. And like I said, it wasn't until 87 that I gave my heart to the Lord. And when we reconnected, I just loved his passion for the Lord. And we were committed to God and had decided together to just have a godly family and not to do it the way that our families had done it in the past.
That's beautiful. You talked about, you know, man, we almost out of time already. Good night. I want to ask you one more thing, because we're going to get you guys to come back, because we haven't gotten halfway through the stuff we want to talk about. But I wanted to close with this conversation. You got married and you relocated the first year of your marriage. So you relocate from Vegas to St. Louis, and now you are expecting a child. Those are two of the most stressful things. Job relocation. Well, three of them. Marriage, relocation, and a baby, all in the first year. The only two other things that are worse the other two other things are termination, death. So out of the top 5 stressors, you dealing with 3 of them in your first year of marriage. So, you know, and now you bring a child into it. So how did you navigate all of the pressures and all of the stresses involved in that first year?
I cried a lot.
A whole lot.
A whole lot.
A whole lot.
Joshua was supposed to be born. The doctor told us, but he told us a story because he told us Joshua was going to come on August the 14th, and he didn't come till September 2nd. Wow. So I was a force to be reckoned with between August the 14th and September 2nd.
Yes.
I was 5 feet tall. I weighed the most I ever weighed in my entire life. I was away from my family, all the hormonal things that come along. Then I had an emergency C-section. And so my mother came and she had to extend her stay because Joshua was late. And that was a very difficult transition for us. But we did become a part of a church, and we met some good Christian friends, and they helped us. God always supplied us with a good Christian support system, because having that C-section, which is a major surgery, I was 26. I just turned 26 years old, and that was a lot. But to God be the glory. He graced us through it. But I cried. Like I said, I cried a whole lot.
A lot. Every day.
Pretty much.
She hated St. Louis.
I did.
Excuse me. So Dr. Robert, the people who are watching who may be, well, they're newlyweds or whether they're in a rough season, a rough patch like that first year, those stresses, what would you say to those people, you know, in terms of, because it may not be the same situation, but a rough patch is a rough patch. For some people, being at home with your spouse during the pandemic is a rough patch. So what would you say to the people who are watching?
Yes, sir.
First of all, will y'all come back so we can finish part 2? Will you come back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Praise the Lord. Okay, so we're gonna close this episode, but I want you to give a word to the people, you know, based on, you know, your experiences. How do you get to those rough, stressful moments like you and Dr. Sheila had that first year when you were in St. Louis? How do you get through those rough patches?
Well, I will say this. For us, it was the Lord, obviously. But I think one thing that we refuse to ever do is fault the other person for our situation. I mean, because we were broke. I mean, we forgot to throw that in there. We were living not from paycheck to paycheck. It was so bad. I would cash my checks because direct deposit, we wasn't getting all that money coming home because there was so many bills we owed. So we were young, relocated, pregnant, new job, and not to mention St. Louis, to our surprise, was a very racist place.
Racially segregated.
And so I'm a black man in a suit and tie with, you know, it is what with Caucasians under me. And that just wasn't received well. And I'm coming home. I can't make her feel like this is her fault. I brought you here. You didn't bring me here. And so we got through it by agreeing to never say we're in this situation because of you. And so we teamed up and realized, okay, God, you did this. Now, surely you didn't interrupt my nice single life to put me in this forever. Yeah. So we always said, there's got to be light at the end of the tunnel. If we can get through this, we'll enjoy the rest of this.
Said it won't always be like
it won't always be like this. And that's really what kept us. That was our saving grace, knowing that this patch, as rough as it is just a patch. And it is not the conclusion of our marriage. It's simply the beginning. So greater and better days are ahead. Yeah. And they still are.
Wow.
It's been sweeter and sweeter. Yes, sir.
To God be the glory. Listen, we got to close this segment, man. It's just getting good. This has been so, man, this is wonderful. It's always rich to glean from you. And I hope those who are watching, I hope you've been blessed thus far by the Pooles. Just an incredible couple. We're going to talk. I want you to tune in next week, same time. They're going to come back for part 2. And we're going to go deeper and get into a lot of the marriage enrichment that they share. And so I hope everybody's been blessed. And then you want to say anything?
That's it.
Okay, so everybody who's been watching, so thank you for tuning in today. Hope you're blessed. Please hit that like button and share this with someone. If you've been blessed by it, share with a friend, share with another couple, and let them know some awesome people are being interviewed that are pouring to us on Marriage Matters. So on behalf of Andre and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The Poole's going to be back with us next week. But as always, please remember this. If you'll be good to God, God will be good to you. Till next time, peace and love. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bless you. Thank you.